let's just remember that you are two different people with different perspectives, different lenses that you're looking out of, different worldviews possibly, completely different upbringings. Like, let's get something really clear. If you and your sibling have a different upbringing, because you all do, even if you're like, no, we had the same upbringing. No, you didn't. The firstborn child, the secondborn child, the thirdborn child, the fourthborn child, etc., all has a completely different set of parents, in that the way that each of them are parented and how they've grown up and what, conditioning has been put on them is completely different. I am the eldest child. My sister is the youngest, besides the fact that we have completely different hobbies, interests, the things that we like, etc., like really, really different. Besides that, we are also so different in what wounds we've had to work through, our beliefs on different things, the way that we see things. Like, I remember one time saying to my sister, do you never feel abandoned? Like, do you never get worried about being abandoned? Or do you never think about like him leaving and abandoning you? Does that never cross your mind? And she was like, what the fuck? No. She was so confused by my feeling when I expressed this to her years ago. Meanwhile, my abandonment wound was something that I really had to work through being the eldest, So just to be really clear, if you and your siblings have different wounding, have different upbringings, have different perceptions of things, I think it's pretty safe to say that your partner has a completely different set of wounds and trauma and upbringing. Even if you both have an abandonment wound, let's say, the way in which it would be felt and expressed could still be very, very different, right? Then we're also dealing, for the majority of us, with the fact that you're a woman or you're a man and she's a woman or she's a man, not she's a man, but you know what I'm saying? You're either, if you're listening and you're either in a heterosexual relationship or you're in a homosexual relationship. If you're in a heterosexual relationship, you're also dealing with a completely different biology, a different way of processing information, a different way of processing through when you're in an argument, a different way of seeing the world already. Different brains, right? Different hormonal profile. If you're in a homosexual relationship, you have that slight benefit of you have the same brains and the same hormonal profile. So you don't have that one to deal with, but you still have the others to deal with. So we have to remember that no relationship is ever going to be perfect. No relationship is ever going to not have tiny little doubts sometimes. Now, if there is a constant doubt in the back of your mind, that's a different story. But if you are deep in an argument and you're like, I fucking hate you, like, why the hell is this happening to me? That's not abnormal, right? You have to remember that your internal experience is reflective of your external experience. When the sun is shining, you're on holiday, you're having raging sex, the food is good, your tummy is happy, you're in ovulation phase, the world is great. You love your husband, everything's fabulous. Then you're at the end of your luteal phase. The fucking weather is shit, work's been rough that week, everything's pissing you off, the moon is in fucking retrograde. Your skin's breaking out, you feel bloated, the two of you have not been communicating well for whatever reason, you're having arguments after arguments. Of course, some fucking doubt is going to creep in. Of course, you're going to go, oh my God, is this my person? Am I in a toxic relationship? Blah. Those things are not abnormal. You're just being a drama queen or a victim, or you're overthinking in that moment. And I really want to say to everybody, that's okay. You're allowed to have a few hours of being like, fuck my life, I hate everything, and nothing bad's going to happen, right? It doesn't mean anything more than you're having a bit of a tantrum, right? You are being emotional, and there's nothing wrong with that, especially to the ladies. To the men, you might be like, no, I never think that. Right. Well, you know what? You're not emotional. So sorry, but you're out of this conversation for that point. But for the ladies listening, you have to remember that for our brains, we see feelings as facts, right? Whereas for men, they don't see feelings as facts. They see logic, right? They're like, if it's logical and it makes sense, but you need to get off your brother, he's not liking it. I wish you guys could see this. Butter is fully on top of Jelly, grabbing him, arm around, like super bizarre, Jelly's like growling at him, like, get the fuck off me, bro. And he's just looking at me like, no. Um, men aren't seeing their emotions as facts. They don't see the same things, right? So for him, he's like, the fact is I love you. I would never doubt it. Whereas you're like, no, the fact is that you didn't understand what I was saying and you made me feel blah, 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 blah. So now I'm thinking XYZ, because we take what we feel as a factual thing when it's in fact not a factual thing. So we have to also remember, ladies, that your experience, even in the midst of an argument, could be causing, if you are watching the video, you'd be seeing Jelly right now, just looking at me, could be causing a different internal experience to his internal experience. And I know this for a fact because I've had these conversations with my fiance where I'm like, don't you sometimes think blah, blah, blah? And he's like, no, because he's like, babe, I committed to you. Like, it's the end. Like, there's no, like, that doesn't make any logical sense. And I'm like, fucking logic. So I'm just going to leave that there. But remember that you have these two different experiences. And so you have two different people trying to work out how to intertwine their lives into one. That is not going to be perfect all the time. That is not going to be easy all the time, especially when you have big changes in external circumstances. It's going to make things a little bit harder. Let's just go through kind of like what's real in a relationship. And I want to remind you that everything I'm saying, people don't say this on Instagram enough, but everything I'm saying is general. So things might be heightened during a certain argument or a certain time of the month. Like when you add context, these things could be amplified or they could be minimized. And if you're having 1 week in your relationship where there's a lot of arguments, a lot of miscommunication, like Mercury's in retrograde, and you're like, yep, well aware, because we cannot seem to talk to each other properly. We're speaking two different languages. That week, if you are fantasizing about running away to Tuscany and having a farm with chickens, I don't blame you, honestly. I really don't. And to just add to normalizing this conversation and to normalizing, ladies, if you're thinking this sometimes, I go around and ask a lot of my friends, do you ever think about blah, blah, blah? And like, oh yeah, all the time. Or do you ever think about this? And like, we're talking, I am saying this to very emotionally stable people. You know, I wish sometimes you could hear the conversations that I have with different friends that are just as fiery or spicy or crazy as I am. And I'm like, my God. Anywho, back to the conversation. So going off, I just want to run away from Tuscany and have chickens. Here's what is real sometimes in a relationship. Sometimes when you're in the midst of an argument and things are not going the way that you want, and he's having a shit week and you're knowing about it because he's not leading and he's not picking up after himself and he's picking fights, or you're doing this, you're not picking up after yourself, you're picking fights, you're being emotional, you're slamming doors, whatever it is. Sometimes you will think, is this person right for me? It's not about, is this person right for me? It's about the fact, like, yeah, the person's fucking right for you. It's about the fact that you are probably wanting to be seen in whatever experience you're having. So the slamming of doors, the screaming at each other, the I'm going to bed, like, fuck you, you don't look after me. It's not necessarily the fact that it's not actually necessarily that he doesn't look after you, because he probably does, or the fact that he doesn't love you, because I bet you he does love you, especially if you're slamming doors and everything and he's still like, I'm here. It's about the fact that you want to be seen. And so we need to remember in all of this that it's so common these days because there's so much on social media around narcissism and should you get married and everyone's getting divorced and like, you know, it's empowering to leave the man and like men are this and men are that, or, you know, relationships are this and I was silenced and I was walked all over. Sometimes I think to myself, were you walked all over? Were you silenced? Or did you not speak up? Did you not say no? Did you not know how to draw a boundary? Were you trying to be seen, and because he wasn't seeing you the way that you wanted, or because he wasn't giving in to your tantrums, you decided he was gaslighting you and he was toxic? Was that actually the case? Does that make sense, everybody? I'm hoping it does. So it's like, it's so easy for us to just consume all this information on social media, where we then now create this lens of looking for, is he this? Is he that? Is the relationship this? Should I leave her because of this? Blah, blah, blah. And we're hyper fixating on stupid shit that we're going to find if we're looking for it. But what all that information has in common on social media is that it lacks context and depth, right? So There are going to be times, ladies, where you fucking gaslit him. There's going to be times where, yes, he's gaslit you, but does that make him a narcissist? No. Does that mean that he is a gaslighter and the relationship is toxic? No. Maybe you were actually being a bitch to him. And so, yeah, he did shut you down because he was drawing a boundary, because he was standing up for himself. And just because you didn't like it doesn't make him a gaslighter or a narcissist. I'm hoping that we're all picking up what I'm putting down, because this is really important to identify. And so what I like to do, because we're all going to be shitty humans sometimes. I'm going to be a shitty human. My fiance is going to be a shitty human. My fucking dogs are shitty. My sister can be shitty to me. My friend, like everyone can be a shitty human sometimes. So what I like to look at is, in the vast majority of cases, how do I feel with this person? And when I'm feeling shitty with this person, is it just because things aren't going the way that I want them to go? And is this something where we could resolve it, or is it a value clash? So do our values not align, or have I tried to bring this up to him and actually do it properly? Because a lot of women think they bring it up to a guy when you haven't brought it up to a guy very well at all. Have I actually brought it up to him? Have we actually had a full conversation about it? He said to me that he hears me, he understands me, he'll work on it. And are things still not changing months later, and I brought it up to him multiple times? There's so many different, I want to say, steps to then actually deciding, oh, he's a this or she's a that, or I'm in this kind of relationship, or I'm in this kind of relationship, versus realizing that when you have two humans that have mood changes, that have digestive changes, that have work stress, that has family stress, that has mental health stress, that has different opinions on things, that has different beliefs. When you have two people cohabiting together and having their own experiences through life, but trying to mesh into one another, there are going to be times when there is fights. There's going to be times when there are disagreements. And the really key thing is, you don't want to, it's not as much of a concern when you're having fights and actually communicating and speaking up. It's more of a concern when you're not having fights, when you're not speaking up, and when everything is being repressed, and when everything is, or suppressed, suppressed, when everything is being suppressed, when you're not communicating and resentment is building.